Welcome to the Success Journey Show. Let's travel together through the lives of individuals on the road to success.
Hey, what's going on, travelers? It's Ricky Venters and Marlon Madden, and we are here for another episode of the Success Journey Show. What's going on, bro? How you doing today?
Well, I'm doing well, Rick, but I'm just excited about what happened last night. When you guys see this, it's all over our Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever you want to, whichever one you check out. But last night we had our second annual Success Journey Scholarship, and we're able to go to Jopper High School, Joppertown High School, and able to present that to two ladies and two wonderful young ladies. And it felt there was so much joy just knowing that, not just that, oh, I'm giving back, but that you see that what you've done, how it impacts, and not just those two, you see other people. Hey, you guys created a scholarship? How did you guys think about that? And what we said to Solomon was, hey, when we're dead and gone, this is something that you got to carry on and help your kids carry on and help your kids carry on. So, just knowing that you left an impact in the world, it's not, 20, 50, 70 years from now, when they're doing that and saying, oh, my dad and my uncle, they started this scholarship and we're carrying it on, and we're giving away to da da da. I think that's going to be what I'm going to love about it.
Beautiful, dude. Well, hey, travelers, man, always remember you can check us out at the successjourneyshow.com. There's going to be updates coming soon if they haven't been already there. Also, Hit Doctor MD, one of our sponsors. Man, we're really excited about where things are going. Man, we're extremely excited about this guest that we have on today. Man, like we always say, take out your notebooks, pen, paper, notepads, mental notes, whatever it may be. Today, we're going to be talking about mental fitness and Williams Deck's journey to understanding what mental fitness is and how to apply it. So, man, a lot of great topics we talk about today. So stay tuned real quick, and the next voice you'll hear will be my voice introducing William Deck. All right, y'all. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Success Journey Show. Please follow us on our social media on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at The Success Journey Show. Also, check out our website at thesuccessjourneyshow.com. Thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of the show.
Hey, what's going on, travelers? Yep, we're back here, the favorite segment of our show where we bring on a guest to share their story on their road to success. And I'm going to put quote unquote success, right? Because, once you reach one goal, you're automatically looking at, man, how can I improve? How can I make more efficient? How can I be better? Right. And that's what we've learned from all of our guests that we've had on our show thus far. And today we are honored to have William Deck. William, what's going on, man? How you doing today? Welcome to the Success Journey Show.
I'm doing well. I'm really excited to be here today and to have this conversation.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Man, let's jump into it. Share with all of our travelers just a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So, once again, my name is William Deck, and I'm the owner of a firm called Mind Business LLC, and we're a coaching and training firm focused on mental fitness education. And what that really means is that we work with organizations to help to remove their self-sabotage barriers from a mental and emotional perspective. And so we make sure that we have an individualistic approach that can then also address the organizational cultural challenge, because we know that culture is really built one person at a time as opposed to vice versa. And so many organizations and the individuals therein, once again, are dealing with imposter syndrome. They're dealing with lack of confidence. They're dealing with all this pandemic overwhelm and toxic stress overload, which is just a bunch of words until you say, how did this actually apply to me? And so we make sure that all the work that we do, everyone has an opportunity to see that because we do smart breakout sessions, we do self-assessments, as well as the education piece to make sure that everyone has a chance to be self-reflective and have a simple but actionable plan. And so that's a little bit about the how to, and we'll talk about that more. But that's kind of our approach, because and we've learned this over the past 3 years as far as being in business. What's the best way to get the feedback from the marketplace so that they can tell us what they need, as opposed to vice versa. And that has been a big shift in our business, to really think about scale. We have to make sure that we're listening and responding, because then we already have the answers, because you've told us what you need. We respond with what you need.
We're just giving it to you.
And we're just giving it to you, but we're giving it to you in a way that allows us to go 1, 2, 3 layers deeper into what the root cause of some of these challenges are, so that we can make sure that we address it from the root cause. So the transformation piece is also intuitive, because it's not just about coming out and trying to do a good job. It's about saying we want to make sure that we do the work of healing, right?
Yeah.
But we use that word in our work, but we don't have to be upfront about that, because I think employers now are seeing that this is the kind of work that needs to be done, and we're just taking an opportunity to be some of the first to the marketplace to just have the courage to go into corporations and have this exact conversation. And CFOs and CEOs are like, well, you know, honestly, if we're honest, that's actually what we need, right?
Yep.
But once again, I think the pandemic has shifted things. So now our business model is even better, because these used to be the hush hush conversations at lunch. Now it's like in a board meeting, I'm talking to the entire group, and they're like, "Yeah, that's actually what we're talking about on the weekends at barbecues with beer in our hands, right?" But now let's bring it to the masses, and so I think there's just an overall awakening in consciousness that even if people don't acknowledge it consciously, at a subconscious level, people are waking up to the reality that we are humans, and we need to address humans as humans, and that's just an overall shift that I would say is like the larger container. This is human work with humans based on what we actually need at our core, if we were honest. And so even the line of questioning in the small group breakout sessions, we always end the question that we pose to the group: if I had no fear, or if you had no fear, because then we can begin to see outside of the paradigm of fear and limitation. And then people, once again, whether it's executives, emerging leaders, or whatever else, we work with everyone within organizations, they begin to think about their lives from for the first time in a more dynamic way that is unlimited. And so that's also very powerful. Like getting people in a group and saying, let's take the cap off of fear or your own personal glass ceiling and just talk. People are like, well, I don't know what to say initially. And then they dive in, excuse me, and they don't want to come back to the rest of the session, because the conversation is engaging something within them that is that divine spark that now it's like, oh, okay, I get it. Right. So giving a couple of examples, because what we do is very experiential. Of course, it is the technical, it is the research and all those things, but research is not going to allow you to heal. Right. Or at least the research of someone else. Now, if you're doing the research on yourself and you're doing the self-study, sure. Just because I come in with a lot of data and information doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to help someone. It's meeting them where they are. And we're just finding better and better ways to do that and building it into our process. And that's what's really amazing. And guys are doing the work. That's all I can say.
Oh man. You know, there's right as soon we're going to get into your story, William, of where you came from, why you got into it. But I'm going to just start with this, because if we get to this point in the story, we won't stop.
Right.
So, and I don't know if you know where I'm going, Rick. You said imposter syndrome, changing the culture, taking off the cap of fear, so you can so you don't that glass ceiling that you set on yourself. So when you saw all this John Morant stuff happening, if you were able to go into John Morant LLC or John Morant Inc., because he is a business, how would you approach that, or what do you think are some of the things that are causing him to, like you said, self-sabotage a lot of stuff that he has? Because he reached to where, you know, I know if he ever, when he was not even drafted, I know he was playing basketball saying, man, one day I want to get to here, set my family up, da-da-da-da-da-da. Now he's at the place where he is, and he looks like he's self-sabotaging. What are some of the things, based off your experience, and you're the expert, that you think is going on in that camp?
So first and foremost, I think it's easy, like as far as low hanging fruit, to say, hey, he doesn't have great examples around him, simply
Mm-hmm.
because now based on and I've heard a couple commentators talk about this. Like at this point, even at his early 20s age or mid 20s age, he's the leader of the group, including his father. You know why? Because he's the money man, and so
Yeah.
he needs. And so because he doesn't have enough, or doesn't seem he has enough people around him that are thinking at a higher level than he is from an influencer perspective, it's impacting him. And I'm not talking about, hey, how do you manage your money? Because you can have a money manager and accountants, accounting team
Yeah.
for all that
Yep.
money to manage it and to be wise enough to know how to balance that and all those things. But when it comes to making critical decisions, what he's trying to do is still fit in with the group that he came up with, but
Yeah.
his position has elevated him to a higher level, and his mindset has not reached that. Because I know the people around him within the organization at the Grizzlies talking to him, coaches and other mentee type folks within the organization. There has to be folks in there that have the ability to, of course,
Yeah.
but it doesn't seem that he's willing to listen because he wants to fit into the old life. What that tells me is that he lacks self-confidence. Not confidence to go out there and to perform on the court, but confidence, and even a better word would be courage, to step outside of what was, step into what he could be. Because if he was to lock in to the idea of whom he could be and have a clear vision of that, beyond just being the star that goes out and is a supreme athlete and can just do it almost effortlessly,
Yeah.
I think at that point he will begin to see, okay, but what does someone that's in my position that had this responsibility and opportunity to change things generationally and already is in the process of doing that, whom do I need to be? What is this idea that is maybe greater than I see myself as? What is this idea of who this person is, and how can I begin to tap into it? What are the behaviors of a well-rounded, highly successful, tier one athlete? And I think there are a lot of people that are trying to help him with that, but he's not ready to accept that idea because he wants to, once again, still fit in with whom he was, but get the money, all the accolades, all the praise, but I don't have to be mature in my thinking, in my decision making. And he's caught in between right now. And so there's some certain things he's going to have to let go, or certain ideas he's going to have to let go, and immediately fall out of fellowship with probably a lot of people. But going through that process, and it may be a dark night of the soul period, which I think he's probably beginning to go through because he's realizing if I don't slow down, all this is going to go away. Then I think he would make a lot of progress quickly because once again, once you kind of get clarity for what the future shall be,
Yeah.
at this point, it's really just about beginning to change or align with the habits. And then over time, the long-term disciplines will develop so that who you once only could envision, you begin to embody it, and you become it. Oh, but you only do that over time, right? So he's going to have to get out of his head and just slow down a little bit. I know there's things are going fast for him, and it's quote unquote tough, but his gifts has brought him in the presence of great men, right?
Yes.
Which are those NBA owners, and now he's got this $200 million salary. So you don't have a choice anymore. I think he thought he had a choice, and he doesn't. He doesn't have a choice because he's been elevated to such a level that he went from a pauper to a prince. And you got to and if you keep on messing up, you're gonna go back to the pauper status because I can
Correct.
tell you right now, with the
Quickly.
people around him, all that money is gonna be zapped up and gone.
Yep.
So he's gonna have to really, really, once again, think about or have someone in this corner and begin to listen to help to create the vision, because this entire world, including our own mental universe, is ran by ideas. How we believe we are as far as the value, what we deserve, all these different things are in our head and only we can define it. So yes, people are around him trying to help him, but he has not decided yet, at least based on what we can see from the decisions, decided to really tap into that next level of greatness, that he got the money so fast and his identity shift has not happened yet. But it's going to have to be, as we already talked about, the identity shift that is the ideas that will elevate him to a higher level, and then begin to execute on those ideas, even if you don't know what to do or how it feels. getting that plan and mapping it out will help you until your consciousness or your awareness or your sense of self-worth speeds up and kind of begins to align with the elevated state of self. And it's kind of hard to say that for someone that's already, quote unquote, making all this money. But once again, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he.
Yes.
Yep.
Not how much, not the money makes you who you are, right? As a man thinketh in his heart, right? Which
So
is your subconscious mind, right? The deeper sense of yourself that you believe when no one's around and no one's there to give you the script. What's in your heart? That's who you actually are. Which is another way of saying who you are is how you respond under pressure. Because then when there's a decision, you can go this way or this way, and then under pressure, you're going to go back to your natural set point, and that's what's happening. That's why he's in cars flashing guns. It's not necessarily that he probably loves guns or whatever else, but he's hanging around with cats that don't have anything to lose, and he has everything to lose. So his subconscious like, man, hang on with my boys, we're having a good time, and listen to music in the car, and then it's just like, bro. Because that's at a subconscious level. He may have been doing that at 17, 18, 19, but once again, those days are over with. So figure it out.
Yeah, William, you know what's funny is that you mentioned, imagine him that have the 200 million and his friend that don't have the 200 million, and he's saying, my friend is more free than I am because they can go on their Instagram and flash and nobody cares. And I have 200 million and I'm supposed to be the one that when I get the money is supposed to be free and I could do what I want and I gain all this stuff, but I can't do it. Nah, I gotta be able to do it.
And Adam Silver's like, the hell you do?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I'm gonna have a public interview and talk about it. And
hey, Nike just removed the shoes from their website
stores. Yeah. Yep. All
So,
that stuff lost, man. It's funny what you said. You know, there's so many things you said in there, William. As a man thinking, so so shall you be. So is he. That's huge in and of itself because that applies through so many areas. Talking about that mental health, mental toughness, things of those nature, because our minds are. We don't realize how we're programming our minds every single day. We don't realize how our culture, how our upbringing, how the things that we're reading, the things that we're watching are programming our minds. So you can be that, take an example of, we said an athlete, John Morant, but just even beyond John Morant, what you put in to practice, talking about practice, right? Talking about practice.
We're talking about practice.
Yeah. What you put into practice, that is what's going to transpire on the court, on the field, whatever it may be. But, a lot of people, they feel as though, hey, I can just get up and go through the motions and I can imitate or I can just replicate something that they see without putting that work in behind them. And we're talking about the situation here with, just this individual. John, there's intentional work that you have to do in order to make sure you elevate yourself. And it is, as much as basketball is fun, you can go play basketball at the rec. You can go play basketball down the street, outside, and shoot around in your backyard. You can do all those things. But now understanding, hey, like you said, you're coming into an environment, right? That environment and that culture and has regulations, has rules, has an image, right? Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying all this stuff to say, hey, you guys can't be yourself. Allen Iverson pushed the image, right? All the other guys pushed the image and try to, stay within themselves. But that all came with high risk, right? That all came with, hey, so how do you walk with people? Just one, that self-realization. I realize that's one of the biggest things nowadays I'm seeing that people just do not have to be able to make any type of decisions as to whether they improve or whatever it may be, because they don't have that self-realization as to who am I currently. Like, how do you talk to people that you find are struggling with that awareness aspect?
Yeah. So I'll definitely talk about one of the assessments that we do to kind of help to kind of bring that forward.
Yeah.
I would also say, just from a general perspective, that who we are at the end of the day are our habits, our disciplines, and our rituals.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And that is extremely difficult at the beginning of the process to help people to see and to begin to buy into, if you will. For me, for example, I get up 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I go to a yoga class for an hour, and then I work out for another hour and a half. And I've been doing that for almost 2 years now. What I realized in creating that new habit is turned into or hardened or solidified into a discipline that is completely unnatural for me not to do. And I'm in the best shape almost outside of cardio when I was playing football. But
Yeah.
physically,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm in the best shape of my life just about simply by getting up Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and in between 4:30 and 4:45, getting my clothes on, driving to the gym and getting to the mat and doing yoga first and knowing what I have to do next and what my workouts are. I don't think
Mhm.
about it actively as far as how long it's going to take or how many reps or sets, because if I did, I'd probably opt out eventually.
Mm.
But getting into the rhythm now, which once was developing a habit, so I get accustomed to it. And, okay, we're getting up so early. Now it's a discipline, and that small discipline or disciplines have impacted my ability to focus. I can sit down for 3, 4 hours and knock out a project, no problem. I've never been able to do that at that level and for that long. But the small disciplines of discipline my mind and body, no more complaining, get your butt up. We're going to the gym. Now I don't have to say anything. I just get up and go and do it. And other people may look at that and say, how can he do it? Well, just like I look at others and say, how can they do all this work in a day? Or how can they make all this money? Or whatever it is for each individual. But it starts with habits, discipline, and overall, it's kind of like a ritual. Like it's just what you do because this is what I do now. And it's impacted my wife, and she's getting up early now because she was in the background when we first started. And now she's going early and she's seeing the benefits in different ways and it's helping her. But I was doing it for a year before we started. And so I think that fundamentally is important because we have to get into a routine because there's so much variance and so much noise in this life that if we don't say, I will do this, 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 and this today or in the next hour. If I don't write it down, if I don't begin to build up the habits and disciplines on certain days of the week or whatever works best for us so that the mind has something to expect and a standard to live up to, then we're just going to be scatterbrained. So we'll get an email or a text and it'll have us working on that as opposed to saying, I don't check my emails after 8 a.m. and then after 5 p.m. Everything in between, unless it's one I'm looking for that I need to respond to before the end of the day. Outside of that, I don't look at my emails several times a day because it was time wasters. I now have an executive assistant team that I work with to help me be more efficient. And so I can work on the most impactful work from day to day to get the best results. But it was hard to see what those were because I had to do everything before then. How was I ever going to be able to clearly see it if I didn't have the brain space to be able to actually engage in the activities and figure out and clear out the gray area and say, okay, these are actually the most impactful activities, which is only 10% of your day. And those are the ones where you're getting the contract side. But what are the
Yep.
activities to actually build up to it? And can I see it now? Right. So all those things. So when I'm working with a client to begin to help them, the first thing that we do is an exercise that I call that I created called the whiteboard of character. And it's a simple T chart on the top left-hand corner. It's positive ideas about myself written out, and on the top right hand corner, it's negative ideas about myself. And what it's really designed to do is be very basic and upfront. But I actually had to take the instructions off because people were getting confused on my clients were getting confused because it's like, well, I read everything you said, but their mind had me wrapped around where I was taking them. So what that's all about is saying, okay, let's begin to write down all the positive ideas and voices that are in your head when you feel positive, when you feel confident, when you feel like you deserve things and things are going well and overall positive trajectories, right? That the ideas that help to build up your sense of self or have over time, write those down. But now let's go on this negative ideas about myself side. And let's write down all the negative ideas and voices that come to you when you don't feel safe, when you feel fearful, when you don't feel like you're good enough. Because usually they come back to you in themes. It's not 1,000 voices. it's usually anywhere from 5 to 10 consistent voices that help or that continue to talk you out of your greatness, that keep you from really getting on the road and making progress down, making transformational change. Because once again, the ideas are themed around ideas about not being good enough, not having the right education, not being smart, not being beautiful or handsome, all these different things. But once again, it's not many voices. And once we identify those, that short list of negative idea voices, then we begin to ask a couple questions. Who told you that? Where did these ideas come from? Because it could have been experiential. It could have been someone speaking directly to you and saying, hey, ain't nobody in this family ever did X, Y, Z. And they used to be trying to go to college and do all that. We work at the steel mill, or we do this, or we do that. Or you can't do this because you're too black. The government ain't gonna let you do it, or they won't let you. And it's just like, oh, okay. Now I believe that as a child, and maybe it was relevant to keep me safe at that time or during a period of time. But now I've gotten to a place in my life that I want to go beyond the programming. And now I'm getting what they call it in psychology, the cognitive dissonance. Oh man, like now it's like the triggers and traumas and the fear and the frustration and anger, blaming other people, not being self-responsible stuff begins to pop out because now I'm afraid or I don't feel safe. And one thing that I learned from one of my good friends, and it's applied them into when we begin to get triggered and get fearful and get a little toxic, it's many times because we don't feel safe and secure. So like money is not just about being able to pay the bills and have the peace of mind. Because for me, the word up until last year, or the idea was peace of mind. Financial security long term is peace of mind. But in a conversation with one of my good friends, he said, you know what, I'm thinking about this a lot too. He's a VP banker doing very well. He said, well, you know what it really comes down to? Safety and security. We all want to feel safe, even as grown men with beards and no beards, hair, no hair. And we want to feel secure in ourselves.
No beard and no hair.
Right. It's a great combination on this podcast. But think about it, like for us, financial security actually start with us being or us feeling secure and safe, saying, I know that I know that I know I can take care of myself and my family. And it extends to them, but it starts with how we feel. The reason why I know that this is a big thing, and thinking back in my life, because my stepfather literally, worked himself sick, even though he was a very successful business owner, because his identity was fully steeped in what he could provide financially. I'm talking about his whole identity. And and if he didn't have it, it was sure that things weren't working out, then he was a totally different person, just as far as like just his demeanor. You could tell he was down and frustrated. And it was specifically centered around money. And so for him, it wasn't that he had a bad desire, but his identity, who he saw himself as, was based on what he could provide. And who we are and what we do or what we have or we can provide or whatever else is two separate things, because our identity is formless. It is. The Most High, or if you don't believe us, that's fine, but the Most High,
we talk about
the universal power is. We are a spark in the one flame, so we are. That doesn't change. So if we make a mistake, the idea for us that we must galvanize is that I must forgive myself first, and if I let it go, all will be well. It doesn't mean that you don't have to do better or make better mistakes, but if you hold on to the energy, or if you process things in a way that says, I made a mistake, and that's part of my identity now, or I messed up. We're thinking about things from the wrong paradigm, because things are going to happen. If we can just like a great quarterback or a great cornerback or whatnot, or point guard, if you have a short memory on the mistakes that you made and let that flow into the sea of forgetfulness, everything else will work itself out, because you're not going to be holding yourself back. See, we think that other people are holding us back, but they're not. The only person that can hold us back is ourselves, because we are the captain of our ship and the master of our souls.
Now,
the master of our fate and the captain of our souls.
Yeah. So I'm gonna tell you with that, man. They like to talk about culture, right? In our culture, that what you said right there, people will look at you like, William, man. So what are you saying? That there's no systematic, William, what you're saying, they, like you said, they are not holding us back. William, what you're saying, that, okay, then why? And they give you all these different, like you said, examples. When they burnt down Tulsa, Oklahoma, they burnt, and what I like to tell them, I'm not negating that. But like you said, if I keep on only dwelling on that, then I'm going to become that. And I'm not going to elevate to nothing, because already told myself, if I go to here, this is going to happen. So I might not want to go there then. I shouldn't be successful. I could just stay here and do this because this is what they want me to do. How do you talk to, what do you do and you you did say a lot how to do it, but you said something about, I don't need to motivate. I like what you said. We don't need motivation. We need transformation.
Yeah.
How do you start that transformation? What we need, because we need it. We need it. Black LLC, the Black Community LLC. That's the company that you're stepping into and going into to say, these are some of the things that we need to. What's that transformation? How are we going to change? Because they like talking about culture, but that culture to me,
yeah, it's not culture to me. It's a bunch of self-sabotage and false ideas that a lot of them are historically inaccurate, straight up. So the one way that I kind of start this conversation to begin to get people, and once again, I'm okay with it, because only the truth can set you free. First and foremost, and this is literally how I've had the conversation with a lot of individuals, even on panels, and I'm not worried about what people think, because I know. I don't think, I know. And it's not about my personal opinion, but let me get into it just shortly. First and foremost, we are not Black. The color of leather that when it's tinted, or maybe leather seats, or the case on your phone or whatever else, that's actually Black. We're actually more brown, or what was called before the 1840s or 50s with copper color. And all the quote unquote original American Indians, before they reclassified and did all that other stuff, which my grandmother actually remembers them doing, 90+% of those American quote unquote Indians, and someone call them Moors, and okay, whatever word you want to use, that was us, because we are the original inhabitants of the earth, and everyone agrees on that. Well, what they don't want to tell us is that we are millions of years old. There's sacred geometry in our hair and everything in our skin. That's why melanin is more valuable than gold and all these other things. And I'm not even on no political stuff, but what I'm saying is most of us are identifying with the idea of slavery. But where are all the ships? They don't have one slave ship. What they do have is tons of record and photos and pictures of all the different Europeans and non-American Indians, or quote unquote current day Blacks, coming over on ships. Now, why do they have all those pictures and boats and things that they've kept and salvaged? They don't have one slave ship. The actual records show that there may have been about 20,000 or so American Indians taken over to the Western Horn of Africa to do some work as not just indentured service, but as prisoners of war, because there were tons and tons of tribes. My family's Cherokee, and especially if you're from the South or the East Coast, everybody's grandmom and granddaddy told you who you are. What they told us at school, they were African Americans, but African American is a nameless, claimless human. Actually, it's not even a human. It's just a nameless, claimless entity. If you are African, which is a continent, and American, which is a culture at this point, or a continent, who are you? You don't have any rights to anything. And the terminology, or the term Black in the law dictionary, means dead in the eyes of the law. So this is a moniker. This is a class system they put on us, and everything that you see from sea to shining sea is ours, including all the way down through South America. That's why we can go to Dominican Republic, we can go to Puerto Rico, we can go to Brazil. And how the hell are they going to tell us I'm not Brazilian, or that y'all are Brazilian? We all look exactly the same, including the islands, because even the islanders, or at least from the Caribbean side, we all look exactly the same. We dance the same. We have the same energy for a reason. Now, they may be split by languages, But even all the way down to the ancient Olmecs and the Toltecs and the Mayans, most of the southern United States is Mayan history if we go back far enough. But there was us in all the old caves and beautiful structures on the insides. They either edited them or some of them are just straight up the exact same. They had long dreadlocks. Some of the different kings and queens had dreadlocks all the way down to their kneecaps because it was us. So first and foremost, that's something that we need to understand. And it's not an all or nothing proposition. I'm not saying no one, but I'm talking about the majority of us. The reason why we don't know who we are is because the reality of who we are is right in front of us. All the different mounds and pyramids that were all over the United States, as well as in South America, they tore them down, and the Smithsonian knows it, and it's been exposed. So that's where I start, because people get freaked out. But if you look at the research and the history, it's all documented, and they know, and they laughing at us because we're trying to go back to Africa. Most of us who want to go back to Africa, our people are from here. But once again, what did our family tell us? So that's where I start with people, because people need to wake up and stop living down to this heavy, dense, dark history that a lot of us didn't even experience. I know we can go back 320 years in my family at least. We have a painting that's over 300 or just around 320 years old of my 7 or 8 aunt. She was darker than me, dark wavy hair, Cherokee Indian, and she looked pissed off because I'm sure that was the beginning of some things that happened, and our family knows that at some point in some of these tribal wars, she lost her daughter, and so she wasn't killed, but it may have been a raid or something, but we know that she lost her daughter and that she lived with that frustration and anger and hurt for her entire life. Like we still as a family remember that. We have a painting of her, and it's a beautiful oil painting, but she was Cherokee Indian. So it's not about like trying to say, oh well, like trying to wake everybody up on that tip. But I can tell you right now, with that level of awareness, you think differently about yourself because you're no longer putting yourself in this bowl of, oh, we've been so oppressed and so on and so forth, because our ancestors fought until the 1760s against dozens of nations coming to this land at one time from all angles to overtake this land. And I won't even get into more details about what this land actually is, but let's just say the civilization that they say sunk to the bottom of the sea, there's old maps from the 1700s that are on Google right now, Amazon, that clearly identify that this land is the land that they say that no longer existed. That's how ancient we are, and that's how far it goes back. And we had advanced technology, and there's paintings of all this stuff that are in universities, all around the country that clearly show us who we are. And so the reason why over anybody else in this entire world, they don't want us to wake up, because think about this. And this is and I'm still in the conversation that I have with people. To not get into to not try to like create this narrative in the story. I don't have anything to prove, but I asked the Most High for the truth, whatever it was, 5 years ago in all areas of my life, and He's been revealing things. And I didn't go searching for this, but I want us to think about this. Why are we, more than anyone else, the ones that must not know or do not know, who we are at all? We don't know our original language, and and it was if you go to CNN, if you go to YouTube, one of the CNN guys that end up getting fired, no, Fox News guys that end up getting fired and let go, he did a whole special on this because they were finding in the late 18th century, early 19th century, different mounds and things like that had all these ancient carvings and writings, and they couldn't find out, or they couldn't translate the language, and they had Jewish scholars come over because they thought it was something that may have been like Hebrew-ish or whatever else, and the scholars came over from other countries because no one in the United States could actually decode it, and they said this is actually ancient Phoenician Hebrew. I'm talking about carved out on stone. And it was original copies of the Ten Commandments, but it was carved into stone.
Wow.
And it was inside of like these different encasings and things like that, meaning that it needed to be obviously preserved. And this was in the Georgia, South Carolina area, or what they called back then Cherokee country. I'm from South Carolina, Cherokee. Oh, right. So that's just a glimpse of who we are. So as I've been compiling information, I'll share this, and all of it's on you. A lot of it, rather, is literally on YouTube, whether it's original shows, whether it's documentation, whether it's people who went to state capitals and just poured out the books. Like the University of Texas has a lot of history on who we are, right there in the middle of the country. UT, original books, right? That says clearly who we are. Like it's just amazing. So what I do is tell stories in this form because all I want to do is get people thinking. Because I know if he were to sit down and me try to be like, okay, well, this is this and this is that, most people are going to be turned off because they don't want to know. Because what that would mean is I have to now be self-responsible to a higher standard as to where I don't know who I am at all or my people, even from a general perspective. Think about people understanding if there's a rich history, and once again, understanding and knowing that our ancestors fought hard. My grandfather, my great great grandfather on my father's mother's side was the last Cherokee Indian chief, East Band Cherokee towards the ocean in South Carolina, and we know this. Ain't no questions. So for whatever reason, I guess God knew I was going to speak up, and I don't care because I think it's so important for us to expand the idea of who we are, and everyone's family had their own history, but at the city and definitely state level, they have all the records. They have all the records of everything. And for most of us, what you will find, and it got nothing to do with any kind of slavery at all. We were prisoners of war after the late 1750s and 1762, right before all the different change. Then all of a sudden it was about these white Americans coming in and fighting the British or whatever else. The reason why we were fighting on, especially mostly on the Confederate side, if we tell true history, is because all of the current United States South, all the states, was the Iroquois Confederation, which is many different tribes, but it was under the Iroquois Confederation when it came to fighting and protecting the land. So we're protecting all the west, so all the East Coast and all the South, because that's where a lot of our people are from. That's why even if people are from the North, if they go back far enough, my great grandmama was from Mississippi or wherever else.
Yeah.
Because most of us were, not all, because California and there were some other smaller tribes in the western and northern states, because we were everywhere, including New York, all the way up there through. But some of the bigger tribes have been established in the South, and that was the Iroquois Confederation, so that the Cherokee, the Blackfoot, so when it came time to protect, we all banded together. But it was the Iroquois Confederation, and so we had a flag, and it looks almost exactly the same as a Confederate flag. So it wasn't a form of slave fight. It was making sure that we protected our land. And if some of the white folks wanted to help to support, great. So I don't have anything against anybody. I'm not judging nobody, and I don't do this race stuff because they're tricking our ass and keeping us thinking low vibrationally. But just know those were not slaves fighting alongside. Those were warriors. We are all of us come from warrior peoples, and we wasn't laying down for nobody, and they knew it. And it took 300 years for them to even get the momentum. Because remember, this was 1490 something, right? That's what they say.
Yeah.
So all the way through the almost 1762 3, we were either winning them or losing. But it was over hundreds of years. We didn't lay down nothing. But if you think that you came from somewhere else, is where I'm going to stop because we'll take a bit of time. But if you think you came from somewhere else and you was a slave on boats, laying prostrate, everybody would have died. You can't last without food and this for weeks and weeks. That's not how humans are set up now. Now, if you was a dog or you was some kind of lizard, hell yeah, you can last that long. But humans, we're not lasting a month with hardly any food, and especially water, right?
Yeah.
That's why we can vibrate so high, because we're much higher density in water content. So we need that because we are psycho-spiritual beings. So that's just not true. And it don't make no damn sense. And if you think about it for yourself, this just sounds like a ignorant ass storybook. Like, really, y'all? Like we were chained around the neck and we were laying down prostrate for 2 months, and you didn't die? Everybody didn't die? Come on now. It doesn't make sense. It sounds good, but first of all, how is it? 20, 30 white men will come in here and take 100 big, strong us men. No. Or, and then I grew up in Houston, so I have a lot of friends who are Nigerian from the West Coast. Their family has no knowledge of any of this. And they know their history, that several hundred years, at least a lot of them. And they go back to their village and visit now, right?
Yeah.
Which is a beautiful thing. They don't know nothing about none of this. Matter of fact, they know it's not true. We don't. But once again, I was just blessed to be in. And so when I look back, I'm like, none of this makes any sense. So if we talk about the macro challenges now, we're living under a false identity that was force fed to us starting in the early 19th century or at the end of the 18th century when we began to do the standard schooling. That's when the brainwashing began to happen. And our elders and ancestors who were still alive were like, what they telling y'all at school? Y'all African American? Well, what's that? We Blackfoot. We Chickasaw. What the hell y'all talking about? And so it's only been really the past 2 full generations, 2 to 3, to where any of this was even talked about. African American popped up out of a meeting that our brother Jesse Jackson was at, and he and a few other people just made the decision and start promoting it. And a lot of people were pissed off about it in the early 80s, a lot of our grandparents. But we don't remember that because, well, at least I don't. I'm 37.
Yeah, exactly.
So African American just popped up out of a meeting, and it was about uplifting, and connecting with our heritage. Heritage where? Because most of us are from here, including Jesse Jackson's people, because he's from South Carolina, close to where I live. He Cherokee too. So I don't know him, and it is what it is. But these are the kind of things that we need to know.
But so people are gonna want to know for our show. I'm gonna tell you this. So we kind of put the carriage before the horse because we don't know. People are gonna say, it's coming down to the end of time. For people that don't know, this show started at 6 a.m.
Yeah,
talking about some early morning
or 5 a.m. for Will.
5 a.m. for you. Who's William? Family show. You kind of gave us the back, but how did all of this come about with your thinking? Where did you go to school? How did you form into what you are today?
Yeah. So as I kind of alluded to, about my hometown specifically is Greenville, South Carolina.
Oh man, I know Greenville.
Yeah.
I'm down in I do some real estate down in Marion County. Conway.
Yep.
Yeah. So I know they're very well. Hemingway. I know they're very well. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so I was born there, but at the age of 7, my mom and siblings moved to Houston, Texas. So my formative years were in Houston, Texas. And honestly, you asked me, why am I who I am? I can tell you this, and I haven't really shared this with a lot of people, but even as a small child, as far back as I can remember, I always knew I was different. I always knew I was different. I always had this sense that there was someone or something that was always following me or close to me that was protecting me. And as I got older, I realized, we could say guardian angels, God.
Yeah.
But I always had that God awareness. Like something is around me that keeps me safe, because what happened is, for example, me and my cousins all around the same age would be like in one of the rooms at my grandmother's house when we would get together, playing around, tearing the house up, doing little kid stuff. We're probably like 3 or 4 years old. But I'm telling you, literally, I would always have like this sixth sense, like she's coming down the hallway and all of us are yelling, but something would be like, okay, go over there in that chair and sit down. 15 seconds later, you'll bust in. What y'all doing in here? And everyone would get in trouble with me, but it was a natural awareness that always happened. And my cousin would be so pissed off, like, why does he always know? I'm like, man, look, just follow me. I don't know how I said it as a child, but I always had that sixth sense and awareness, and I still have it today. But also with that, growing up, and because my parents separated when we were, when I was 6 or so. So that's when we moved. My mom wanted us to move to a more progressive place and have an opportunity to see an expanded perspective of what the world was. Because Houston's super diverse. So growing up in Houston, but I'm my dad's namesake. Not having him in my life really impacted me in a negative way because I knew my dad. and he was a great father. And now we're super, super close and have been for many years. But during those formative years, he wasn't present, and that really impacted me. And so, because of that brokenness and other things that simply happened just because of living life, my stepdad got sick when I was about 20 years old. I always felt like I needed a mentor, and I wanted a mentor, especially just a male leader mentor that was more like a father figure, especially in the business space. And I wasn't present with my dad. But as I got older, just thinking about always having that awareness and that presence. And then as I got older, looking for a mentor in every situation that there could have been a mentor, that person left or I left the company or whatever else. And I realized in my late 20s that God had a unique path for me. He wanted me to think the way that I thought, process things the way that I process things. And now I leverage it as a business, being a divergent thinker, being led to information that I wasn't looking for, and others that I was, to answer questions and getting the root cause answer, being able to have my own dark night of the soul, and to be able to have it kind of a second version in my early 30s, that really woke me up. I changed my diet and went plant-based and started opening my mind to other ideas like yoga and just trying new things. And that really helped to have a secondary transformation to where I went deeper into the self-awareness and came back out with information and knowledge that I never read in a book. And it was just downloads from the Most High. And then I began to connect study with it to get even more proficient with some of the things that I'm talking about now, of course, plus the life experience. And so who I am today is that same boy that was walking around in my mom's Montessori school. And I remember little kids following me around and like want to be around me and things like that. And I was just aware that why does everyone want to be around me? But after a while, I just realized I don't have the answer, but I just know that there's something different about me because everyone wants to hang out with me and asking me questions. They're like 4 years old. And I remember my mom telling me stories about these things too. And it sounds like, okay, this person is trying to be cocky. And no, like I was a 3 or 4 year old, but I do remember kids like following me around. And my mom even has told me stories many times about when I would come to school in that 3 to 4 year age space, that my classmates would like chant my name. Like, William.
No, I believe it. That's how my son is. Rashad.
I don't know why, but all I can say is that we were chosen, and it's not about being better. It's not about separate. It's just something that I didn't choose. Just like I said in the Bible, you didn't choose me, I chose you. Yeah. And I think all of us are chosen, but are we aware of it? And are we willing to tap into it? For me, I've gotten so comfortable with being my authentic self. I don't care what other people think. Not from like, because I'm not having conflict with anybody. I'm just doing my thing. But I'm saying deep within myself, I finally got to a place through trial, error, pain, frustration, overcoming, healing, moving forward, that I'm so secure in myself. I allow myself to be myself every day, all day. And the beautiful thing is, when we tap into that as individuals, we find that the world is thirsting for someone to be awake.
Yep.
And to speak truth in love. Because all the work that I do, that's what it is. I'm not usually telling stories about the American Indian. Like, that's just because, we talk and he asked me simply about this black stuff. Yeah. Sabotaging our mind because it is a darkness and a lack of light. And all of our ancestors understood the light comes from within, right?
Yeah.
That is the light of the world. And it starts here because we don't see with our eyes. We see with the single eye of the spirit. Because what this sees is our reality. What this sees is only the secondary outcome of what this has processed. Because even with light, even with visual sight, it has to be processed in the mind, but that's also knowledge, wisdom, and awareness. So these are not our real eyes.
What does Solomon ask for? Knowledge, wisdom, and understanding.
That's right. Boom. That's it. That's it, man. So that's what I'm searching for, brothers. Like, I'm not trying to do anything. I literally wake up and ask the Most High to guide me. And I tell myself every day and in every way, my life is getting better and better. This is the day that the Lord has made. I shall rejoice and be glad in it. And then I go into my specific, visualization of what I want to happen. But that's what I start with. And I'm seeing that more and more every single day. And I see why our wise elders, they talked about things in this way, because it's overtaking me. I can't be anything else. I can only be myself now because I know. I don't think and trying to get people. I know. So that's one of the things that I will leave with people. Begin to think and look at your life from not a thought or hope or trying to. There is no try, only do. We need to get to the place where we're so resolute, even if it takes time to figure it out, that we know some things. What is foundational that we know that no one can take from us? First and foremost, about ourselves.
Yep.
If you're spiritual, about the Most High, or have you ascribed him, her, it, and then go from there, because then you become unstoppable because you're thinking for yourself. Not thinking down a certain path. Don't believe everything I said. Go and do your research. It's all there on YouTube for the most part. If you look up Dane Calloway, his last name is Calloway. He has a lot of the actual, he does the physical anthropology, and he goes super deep into all the stuff to remind us who we are. But he's not the only one. But it's totally up to you. But just think for yourself. Don't take information that anyone tells you and just say, oh yeah, okay, cool. So that you think some things because you heard it. No, make sure that you know, so that you can solidify who you are and begin to have some stability in a world of instability. If we turn on our phones, our laptops, our TVs, we're gonna get so much stuff. It's not about it being good or bad. It's too much stuff. It's way too much information. So we have to slow down and clarify, what do we believe first, and then get to the place of saying that these are things that I know through and through in my heart.
What we believe. Yes.
Yep.
Man,
we don't need motivation. We need
transformation. Because thinking black is going to mess you up.
Love it.
Don't be a black person.
Love it,
sir.
Mm-hmm. Love it. And it's provocative. Rick, I'm going to let you close out. It's provocative, but I love that we went down there. Our show usually just goes on the person's journey. We put the carriage before the horse, and I'm glad we were able to wrap it up to find out how and where did you get some of this thinking. We don't need motivation. We need transformation.
Man, William, before we let you go, can you share with our travelers and guests around the world where they can connect with you, learn a little bit more about your program and what you do? There's an organization that needs to bring you in. Why don't you share that information with us now?
Yep. So our website is www.mindm is in Mary, IND business LLC.com. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, as well as LinkedIn at william.b.deck. So I'm on all three of those platforms actively, and I'm posting every week, about different content, life journey stuff, talking about everything within the mental fitness realm. And we have a lot of great conversation. And so I'm really about just, sharing free game reflections, about family life, different things that I'm learning along the way, being vulnerable. And I hope to see you there. And if you have any direct questions, you can also email me directly. I don't mind giving it out because that's why we're in business. But it's Deck, my last name, D as in David, ECK, at mindbusinessllc.com. If you want to email me directly and have questions or thoughts, or saying, hey, can you explain why you say we shouldn't be, I'm okay with that. Because once again, that's an individual conversation. And if we can just spread the light and get people thinking and then go and do their own research.
Yes, sir.
That's all it's about. I'm not trying to indoctrinate anybody on anything. I want us to be free in mind, free in thought, free and feel empowered and free to take action to manifest our greatness, whatever that means. And I'm okay with that. So
love it. Well, travelers, you heard it, man. If he could, man, I will. That whole drop the mic, but he has a whole headset, man. We'll lose everything. But,
it might break it if I drop it.
Yeah, it might break it. But man, William, this was a phenomenal, man. Thank you so much for just sharing with just the aspects of just mental fitness. I love it. All of our travelers, man, we want to thank you for joining us again for another show. Listen, we'll be back with you guys again next week at the same time in the same place on the Success Journey Show. Everyone have a good one. Peace.
One love.
You've been listening to The Success Journey Show, where your dreams, drive, determination, and diligence are the foundation to success. For more information, check out thesuccessjourneyshow.com. The Journey Squad is here helping you to your destination.